Hooray, it worked this time. I changed some recording settings, played around with them a bit, and every time I tried to start recording, I guess maybe because I've set up my microphone as well, I don't know, the Camtasia would crash. But now it's working! Yes, I wanted to talk about 3 things that I have seen recently. And, yeah, that's the list. That's what you're going to see. I would love to show pictures, but I'm not allowed to do pictures anymore because then I get yelled at for copyright. So, first thing on the... Well, I will say the last part of this video, when I talk about Wreck-It Ralph, it's going to be spoilers. And so, you know, stop listening when I get to Wreck-It Ralph if you don't want spoilers. In fact, there's going to be some spoilers for Crystal Ponies and Too Many Pinkies, so if you want to not get spoiled for that, stop listening pretty much right now. So, Crystal Ponies, I don't know if that was the actual name of the episode. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. The songs and some of the things in it were good, but the actual, 2-episode season premiere, it was terrible. It was like, hey, welcome back to the 1980s. We're selling a toy line again. The plot was terrible. The villain was non-existent. You compare Nightmare Moon and Discord to whatever his name was, King Sombra. And yeah, I mean, he had, what, 1 line maybe in the entire show, and he was completely removed from the action the entire show, and he had no personality. He looked stupid. And, I mean, he himself looked like a 1980s toy for a boy's toy line, is what he looked like. It looked exactly like that. So I was not particularly impressed with that, especially since the whole basic plot of it, I shouldn't say the whole basic plot, the scenario they ended up in is essentially, hey, it's the season finale from last season, but kind of all over again. But this time we switched it up. Instead of Shining Armor maintaining a spell, now it's Princess Cadence, who somehow knows the same spell at an even higher level and made it even better somehow? I have no clue. But yeah, it was kind of obvious that the whole point of that episode was just to push out a new line of Crystal Pony toys. And that, specifically why at the end of the episode, and they managed to find the Crystal Heart and everything starts shining in rainbows and that, all of the main cast gets crystalfied, because that adds another 6 toys they can sell. So I really didn't like it. Yes, some of the songs were cool. Yes, I loved watching Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy joust. I hated the stupid Vuvuzela looking thing that they kept blowing. And yeah, the whole episode just seemed very... They were in this city. There were ponies living in this city. But at the same time, up until the actual fair got going, it looked like a frickin' ghost town. Like, nobody lived there, and you rarely saw anybody else. And there's just, they would show these big shots of the perfectly circular city limits with all the buildings and the gigantic tower in the center. And oh, there was something else I wanted to complain about, too. I did like... I kind of liked the hidden staircase. That was actually a pretty cool idea. The doorway into your worst fears was cliche, but I thought that was handled pretty well, too. Well, I mean, Twilight walks through it, and then suddenly she fails the test, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, the whole test engine, I don't know what that's called. It's not a story engine. I guess the hook, the idea behind the actual episode that she's on this test that she's supposed to finish, pretty loose and crappy. It's like, oh, you have a test and you study because you freak out because it's a test, and then, oh, your test is to go here and help this person, and you must do it yourself. You must hoof deliver it yourself. And so then she ends up, oh no, I'm trapped. So Spike, you're going to have to do it. I don't care if I fail my test. That was not built up particularly well. I'm not going to say that they didn't build it up at all, because they had her completely over-dramatically overreact in the beginning of the show, and then kind of forgot about it for a while and didn't really play it up, and then suddenly there was this build-up. they went the opposite direction with the build-up. They started off way too heavy, and so it seemed like it was just anticlimax the whole time until they hit that one point. And, I mean, the actual lesson behind it, the whole, it's the fate of, hundreds and hundreds of these other ponies is more important than passing your test. So, yeah, I did not like that episode very much. I thought it's not just the worst of the 3 season openers. It is I'm going to say the worst episode of My Little Pony as far as my opinion is concerned. And I know I've mentioned this before. A lot of people like the Halloween episode with Luna, and that is by far my worst. That is my least favorite episode, but now it has been supplanted. And you almost can't even see Luna because you're so far down at the Crystal Pony section. I mean, it was a very pretty episode. They had a lot of fanciful architecture and a lot of these sweeping landscape shots. But yeah, there was the lesson was poor. The execution was poor. Man, it just screams that, yeah, we're selling toys. On the other hand, Too Many Pinkies was like they came out with the very next episode and they said, oh, hey, that first one, that kind of sucked, didn't it? So here, we're going to give you all kinds of awesome in one episode. We're going to show you guys that even though that first episode was all Hasbro coming down and saying sell more toys, that we know who our fans are and we're going to give them what they want. The only thing I would complain about, I think, in that episode is when the one Pinky clone grows quote-unquote fingers. That was creepy and terrible. That was like nightmare-inducing kind of creepy. So that would probably be the only thing that I would really complain about. If I wanted to also complain, you could get away with complaining about, bet you can't make a face crazy as this, which was awesome. And I actually had to pause the video and laugh and then try and breathe before I died. Because that was cool. That was awesome. Now, Pinkie Pie can get away with it. Any other pony in the series, that would be a complete deal breaker. But Pinkie Pie, with all of her fourth wall breaking powers, can get away with making fun of the older ponies. That whole episode, though, was nice. The drawings, when she's trying to go over the names of her friends with the clones, when there's a whole bunch of clones. And the drawing of Applejack looks like Jappalack from the Pony.move series by Hot Diggity Demon. The drawing of Fluttershy looks like the drawing of Fluttershy from the Pony.move series by Hot Diggity Demon. I think that was absolutely on purpose. And then I don't know quite what the joke was when she shows her own picture, but of course the camera switches angles so you don't see it. I think it's just because it was too obscene to show her from that series. Because she has that, like in the earlier episodes of the Pony Move series, she looks kind of, well, for lack of a better word, she looks kind of retarded. And then she's got like the buck teeth and the unibrow, and so they couldn't really, do that too well. So they just turned it around and didn't show it to you. But yeah, the Pepe Le Pew bouncing, the very reminiscent of Finding Nemo seagulls, fun. All the time. It was hilarious. It was very cartoony, and to me, I can understand other people might find it annoying. I'm pretty sure I can imagine people saying, "Oh, that was so annoying." For me, the whole episode was just wonderful. There was another reference that I wanted to make, but now I don't remember what it was. I do like the watching paint dry as the actual test. I do think that they made Twilight way too quick on the draw during that scene, because you can totally imagine, even though Pinkie doesn't want to lose her friends, and she's very focused and watching the paint dry, you could totally imagine that Pinkie Pie, turns her head to look at a bird or something like that. And so Twilight was a little bit too quick on the draw there. And I think that they didn't show Pinkie struggling enough during that scene. She was just, at the end, you could see that she was trying very hard, but you couldn't really tell the difference between the very last two ponies. And that didn't make a lot of sense when you're supposed to be showing that, only the real Pinkie Pie could put up with that kind of stuff. whereas one of her clones lasted forever. So I think if you really showed her buckling down and struggling and trying to be, trying to avoid it, avoid looking away and being distracted, even if you wanted to do, I mean, like, it would probably be a little bit cheesier and it would give up the mystery. I'm making air quotes again, mystery of it all. But even giving her like an internal monologue where she, she's like, oh, a bird. And then her head just barely starts to move and she says no. And she buckles down and keeps watching the paint dry. I think that might have made it look a little bit better as far as the lesson to be learned. I think the whole episode as a whole wasn't so much about the friendship lesson as it was about having a lot of fun with Pinkie Pie. So that was cool. Was there anything else I wanted to say about the Pinkie Pie episode? I do think it was very heavily slanted to as a, please forgive us for the absolutely terrible Crystal Ponies opening, because that was just terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, so now it's time for Wreck-It Ralph. So I will say I loved this movie. I know I probably mentioned it before in one of the videos that I said, I saw it and I loved it. I really, really, really liked it. It's one of the movies I'm going to pay to go see it again this weekend for Thanksgiving. I have the next couple days off for Thanksgiving holiday. And unfortunately for it, it's not going to come anywhere close to my record. I paid to watch Over the Hedge in theaters 10 times. Not an exaggeration. And in fact, I watched it in 2 or maybe 3 different states when I watched it. I love the movie Over the Hedge. It was absolutely awesome. And I own it on DVD too. So, and yet I wouldn't even say it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It just really struck a chord with me and I loved it. Wreck-It Ralph is very similar to Despicable Me in that it's something that I really liked in theaters. I'm going to watch it more than once in theaters, but I feel like it's not going to give me the same kind of impact as it did the very first time I saw it. Despicable Me, it was the moment, here's a spoiler for Despicable Me. That movie's older, several years old now, and I own it on DVD, so deal with it. Towards the very end of the movie, when the one girl, he's putting them all to bed, and then the one girl jumps up and gives him a hug and says that she loves him, it was a very poignant moment for me when I first saw it in theaters, and I try and not watch Despicable Me that often so that moment can retain the level of impact as it had the first time. It's never going to get all the way back to that very first time because it comes out of nowhere and you're not expecting it. Wreck-It Ralph doesn't quite have that moment in it, but it's got the same kind of feeling to it. So I feel like the next time I see it, it's not going to be quite as good as the first time I saw it, in the respect of the relationship between Ralph and Vanellope. Because watching it for the first time, you get the fullest emotional impact. Watching the movie multiple times after that, you're going to see a lot of other things surrounding that you might have missed the first time. But you're not going to get the same visceral impact. So anyway, the thing I really liked about the movie, I did very much like the dynamic between Ralph and Vanellope. I really hope they make Sugar Rush into a video game because that just looks like fun. The Mario Kart, but with a candy theme. I love King Candy. I love the voice, that old Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland 1950s animated Disney movie kind of voice, which I can't do, but I really wish I could. It's right up there with I wish I could do Christopher Walken's voice as far as impressions and voices go. I will say they completely got me as far as what was going on at the end of the movie, because I had a logical, internally consistent, alternate explanation for everything as they were going through. The first one, before they explained what going turbo meant, they kept saying in the movie, is he going turbo? And for me, because they had the Street Fighter 2 characters in there, I thought they were making a reference to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which, now I don't know if I'm exactly correct here, but isn't that the second game? They had Street Fighter 2, and then they had Street Fighter 2 Turbo, where, now I'm a bit confused. Anyway, while I was in the theater, I thought Street Fighter 2 Turbo was the first game where you could then play as the boss characters. And so I thought that going turbo meant turning a villain character into a good guy character, But they kept saying it in a way that it was something bad, but everybody who did that was, of course, for the most part, a good guy. So it might have been just bad for them. And since they were kind of trying to play up the whole, villains aren't respected and aren't, well, at least for Ralph, the villain he didn't feel respected, and he wasn't respected. Everybody else kind of ignored him because he was just the villain. So if he was going turbo, he was trying to become one of the main playable characters and thus, stop being the villain. And then, of course, they explained that Turbo was from the Turbo-tastic racing game. Turbo-tastic. So that was one bit of confusion. The second bit of confusion that I had was when it came to Vanellope as the glitch. It was entirely possible, particularly because of the type of racing game she was in, and even knowing that King Candy was trying to, even when you know that King Candy is trying to, get rid of her, the thought could be that she actually was a glitch. Because you think about Mario Kart series. If you're winning in Mario Kart, the game doesn't even try to hide the fact that it is going to cheat to make the game, more interesting with air quotes. It rubber bands. So if you get too far ahead, all of the other racers speed up to catch up and make it a game again. You can't stay in first place for too long. Well, you can't stay alone in first place ahead of everybody for too long. But anyway, my point is, I thought that as the glitch character, that was actually her role in the game. She would teleport, and glitch forward a little bit to overtake a player that's too far in the lead. If you were playing just against the computer characters, it obviously wouldn't have to do that too much if you had an actual human opponent there. So I thought that was like, it was one of those programmed glitches. But King Candy thought, if players keep losing this game, they're not going to want to play it, so I'll get rid of the glitch and make it more, fair. Excuse me. So that was my working theory for her. And it was even more confirmed when they said, that glitches can't leave a game, and then she was unable to leave. So it didn't make sense to me. It made sense to me that was the kind of glitch that she was. And I didn't like the alternate explanation where she's actually the princess and he was disconnecting her. I actually do kind of like the fact that he's Turbo and he ended up in the game, although it doesn't make any sense when you think about what happened to Turbo before, and they almost made it pretty clear that he got stuck in the other game and, got taken away. And I do like it when he transforms into the big Bug King. That was cool. But of course, I absolutely did not like the fact that she turns into a princess. But it's a Disney movie. That's the kind of thing that happens. I do like, though, that she just, gets rid of the princessy dress and goes back to her little Rugrat clothes. I like the dynamic. I already mentioned this, but I like the dynamic between Ralph and Vanellope. I like how they bicker and argue, but towards the end of the movie, before you get to the actual end of the movie, they're insulting each other and everything. I want to say they're like an old married couple. It's obvious, that they have this. There's a care for each other in there, even as they're bickering. It's a little cheesy when you get to the very end of the movie and they're deliberately bickering in a cutesy manner back and forth, in that way. That kind of loses some of the charm, but still good. I also really like the other characters in Sugar Rush, how they're all totally, they've got those little Bratz dolls, proportions, the My Precious Moments kind of body style, but they're trying to give them like attitude and make them, for lack of a better word, they're like bitches, trying to be the mean girls, and that one, foppy guy who's sitting there. I remember when they were showing him getting prepared, and he goes and he combs his hair. But, like, not, like, just combs it, but, like, combs it in a big flourish. And very funny movie. I enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to say specifically about it. Mostly I wanted to share my alternate theory, and that's why at the end of the movie I was completely blindsided by what, the actual plot, because I had this consistent, logical, could totally have gone that way idea of what everything meant, and it was, it was wrong. Even after they explained what going turbo meant, because I had thought about it during the first part of the movie, I was still thinking about going turbo in the second part of the movie. The commander is awesome. Super awesome. I love the way they animate her. I love how she scowls and, like, bares her teeth at people, and she barks orders, and I love that she's a dynamite gal, and I love that whole scene. It was awesome. I love the wedding scene in her flashback. That was so badass. That was where did she pull that gun from? She was awesome. I mean, that they weren't the point of the story. I think they could have spent a little bit more time on Felix and the commander, because everything that they did was awesome. Who else was in that movie that was kind of cool? I mean, obviously the video game cameos, Q*bert and everybody trying to donate money to Q*bert, and then at the end of the movie where they allow him to be part of the game, to try and give him a hand up and not a hand out, as it were. Yeah, I think the whole movie was put together rather well. It was very enjoyable. I have heard some people say that they really didn't like it, and I don't get that at all. Having watched it, I see they tell me some of the things that they didn't like about the movie. But they were like, I've had one guy who was telling me that the movie was too predictable, and considering that I had this whole alternate theory and the movie totally took me by surprise, I can't say it was predictable. I mean, it could very well have been predictable to him because he didn't have that same, screw up that I did. You might be hearing me like I'm lying in bed talking, and because of where my computer is, I can't lie lengthwise in my bed, so I'm laying the wrong way, and my feet hang off above the knee, actually. So I've got them sitting on my chair, and I keep moving the chair and bouncing it into things. I suppose I'll add a quick note about Pokemon Black 2, which is the one I got. One, kind of... Well, you get a choice there. I have a Purloin. I keep calling it a Skitty. I've never had a Skitty before. And I found out that Black 2 doesn't have Skitties, so I can't have a Skitty. I can have, however, a Lopunny, and I really, really want one. I can't, however, have a Lilligant. It's like I want all the cute, girly Pokemon, but they divide them up differently. I was only looking because I wanted to see what Pokemon were in the area of... I'm at Castelia City, which looks wonderful, just like in the first game. I like the fact that you're coming from the opposite side of it now. Although it does seem to lack... Well, once again, it lacks some of the impact. You don't have that awesome scene of walking across the bridge. Oh, I know what I wanted to complain about. Yeah, Black 2 is going to be my Crystal Ponies thing. My gosh, but they steal control of you for so long in this game. Everybody's walking you around, and you don't have any control over where you're going, and they're talking to you constantly. Stupid Bianca doing it, stupid Hugh doing it. Yeah, they all just take control of your character and walk you around. It's like, oh, now I'm going to show you how to catch a Pokemon. Hey, guess what? I've been playing Pokemon since the original. I know how to catch a Pokemon. Please just let me skip all this crap. But nope, no choice. Got to walk through it. I did complain the other day in one of the Pokemon videos about the normal gym and the grinding. I will say, if you're going to have... in the early game, it's the same in all Pokemon games. The early game grinding is just grinding. There's really no way to kind of get rid of that, because they keep putting the really simple and easy Pokemon, just, normal types, which they have a lot of hit points and they beat on each other. And then the bug types with the poison, which is always a pain. But I do like, right now I'm in the sewers, and what's awesome is, and what I really like, my Pokemon were only like level 12 or 13. I beat the second gym, and then we were down in the sewers in Castelia, and Hugh is there, and his Pokemon was level 20, but you heal automatically between fights. That was cool. I'm up against all these Pokemon that are way higher level than me. I get to fight them to the best of my ability with a handicap. You know, I've got Hugh's Pokemon there, but I automatically heal at the end of the fight. So I don't have to waste so much time leaving the sewer, going to the Pokemon Center, sitting there for 15 seconds while she takes all of my Pokemon, does the little jingle, hands them back, and then still has to talk to me. And then walk all the way back to the sewer with all the screen transitions that are in between. So I really give the Pokemon team kudos for that automatic healing in the sewer. That's pretty cool. And I guess it's mostly because of all the transitions. In the complex, in Verbank, you can, it's a straight shot. If you just go straight up from the complex, you go right into the Pokemon Center. So I think there's a lot, they did put a lot of thought into those kinds of concerns, which was nice. Maybe they did that back in Platinum and Pearl? Is that what they were? No, Diamond and Pearl. Yes, Diamond and Pearl, then Platinum. Which I've never played any of those games, so I have no clue what goes on in them. But I'm liking it. I got my Oshawott. I'm using a Purloin, a Pidove. Who else is on my team? I have a Growlithe, a Riolu, and a Venipede. Is that all of them? Oshawott, Purloin. Well, let me just go by their names. I have Hideyoshi and Toyotomi, Frankie, Soft Paws, Rioli, and Slick. Yeah, so that's all 6 of them. Those are their names, by the way. Yeah, I'm trying to use Pokemon that I didn't use the first time, so I had to give up the Herdier, not the Herdier, the Lillipup. I had to give up the Packrat. I will be giving up the Pidove as soon as I get a different Pokemon to replace it. Otherwise, when I played Blue, I don't think you got Growlithe in Blue. Maybe you did get Growlithe in Blue. Anyway, I've used a Growlithe before, but I'm going to keep him, and I'm naming every single Pokemon I catch. That's my goal this time. Everybody has to have a name, and I already named... I had an old character for role-playing games, and he was a samurai, and his name was Hideyoshi Toyotomi. And since I named my Oshawott Hideyoshi and my Growlithe Toyotomi, they're staying in my party the whole game. So those are going to be my Pokemon. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. The rest of the team, I really want to keep my Purloin for as long as possible. I think I had a Purloin and a Liepard in Pokemon White, but I don't remember very much at all about them. I think I had one and then I got rid of it real soon, so I'm trying to keep her around for a while too. Anyway, this is a very long video where I talk about stuff, so I think I'm going to end it right about now. Until next time, bye-bye.